Welcome back, everybody. Back again with a new episode of Rpgibberish, and today we're going to be delving into a very special series, and that is the Kingdom Hearts series developed by Square-Enix over the last 10 years. Pretty soon, I believe it's early February of 2012, there will be the 10th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts, and TGS will be hitting very soon. Actually, TGS is already over at the point you're listening to this podcast. And there's been a lot of great stuff announced for the Kingdom Hearts series, especially the Dream Drop Distance 3DS game. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to delve into the Kingdom Hearts series, which is a perfect series for me. It was one of my nostalgic series. But how about you, Greg? How is your experiences with the Kingdom Hearts series?
Uh, I must admit, I thought the idea was ludicrous when I first read it in a magazine. Disney and Squaresoft make an RPG with Disney characters and Final Fantasy. I thought it was probably one of the worst ideas when I read it, but it wasn't until I got my copy of FF10 that came with a bonus disc. And I saw the trailer in there, and the first thing that kind of really got to me was the music. And at the start, it was really a foreboding atmosphere. It didn't go straight into the Disney aspect. It just intrigued me. So when it came out on Platinum, I pretty much gave it a go, and I'll talk about that a bit more later on. That's how I kind of started off with the Kingdom Hearts series.
All right. Yeah, for me personally, I have to be honest and say that I'm a huge Disney fan. I pretty much have all the major, Disney movies, animated movies that they released. I have them all on DVD. It's at that time, I was growing up. I believe I was about the same age as the characters in Kingdom Hearts. I was about 12 to 14 years old when I started playing Kingdom Hearts, and it has been a fantastic series. And once I read about it again in magazines, I was really psyched for it. And it is one of the few games on the PlayStation 2 that I just bought day one, for a ludicrous amount of like 65 euros of saving up money for months. But it has been a fantastic series, but we'll get to that later on, with the different games. So, Greg, please tell us a little bit about the history of Kingdom Hearts because it has a pretty rich story.
What's really interesting, because there's not really anything like it in terms of how games are developed. Basically, Tetsuya Nomura, who's worked on the Final Fantasy series before Kingdom Hearts, and of course one of the major key figures of Final Fantasy VII, basically one day was working in the SquareSoft building that coincidentally was also it also housed Japan's Disney division. And basically, one day he was in an elevator with one of the big executives and very quickly ran an idea by him. And of course, that idea was Kingdom Hearts, basically. And that's how it formed because they must have liked what he said, and Disney decided to greenlight it. So let me tell you now, if there's a game you want to create with a big animation company, if they're in a lift, go for it. Just I found that story so bizarre, you know. I would never think that that would happen, but you never know how things pan out.
Well, I have to be honest and say that's probably how the Nino Kuni games got together as well. You know,
Level 5.
Level 5 and Studio Ghibli were on an elevator ride. I have no idea if that's the case, but at least Nino Kuni, it kind of resembles Kingdom Hearts, but thought I'd just throw that in. That's really an interesting story. The power of elevator pitch. It paid off because Kingdom Hearts is probably Square Enix's third biggest IP right now, behind Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. So it's selling millions. So that's definitely very good.
We'll get into how Kingdom Hearts appeals to everyone because being someone who goes to a lot of conventions, I can tell you that now that that game, the series is well beloved by fans here in Australia. So we'll get into why it's appealing to a lot of different players. But yeah, it, it it was an odd bird. The thing that kind of saw me, other than the trailer, was the fact that Final Fantasy characters are in it, of course. Which at that point I was still a huge fan. before when I kind of dropped out of playing Square games for a couple of years. But I'll get into that another time. But first up, we'll get straight into it. Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts 1.
Oh yeah, definitely. Kingdom Hearts One. It's pretty much set the bar for the whole entire series, and the series it spans pretty much, I believe, 6 or 7 games with some remakes thrown in, and the series, its roots are true across all the different games. It's the gameplay and the story and the graphics and even the music and such. It's pretty much the same formula, but just with added stuff later on. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Kingdom Hearts 1. Kingdom Hearts 1 was, of course, released on the PlayStation 2 back in 2002 throughout the entire world, luckily enough for all us European and Australians. And from the get go, I was really blown into the game. The game opens up with a very dark setting where we meet our main character Sora for the very first time um, in sort of this dark world where he basically wakes up in this dark area, and the only thing that's there is this sort of um, glass, colored glass type of area where you see his character. And uh, that opening, I believe, 20 minutes, which basically ties in a tutorial as well, completely blew me away. And after that, you moved on to the opening world where you meet, the three characters, Sora, Riku, and Kairi, who are basically living at these islands where they are enjoying their life and just having fun all day. But Greg, tell us, how did you enjoy that opening hour of Kingdom Hearts?
Well, it definitely sold me. It gave a different impression that I had in my mind about the experience to begin with. I sensed that there would be a dark side of the game that I didn't think was possible. I kind of got a hint from the trailer, but it wasn't until I played the game and you experienced that world with the stained glass windows that I thought, wow, this really shows the power of the PS2. Um, and I was just really blown away. And then it got into Destiny's Island, and I was, the cheering music came. It's just like, here comes the Disney aspect. But what was really cool about Destiny Islands is it had to be there to show that sort of innocence, that childlike innocence of all the characters. But as a Final Fantasy fan, I also got a kick out of the fact that Tide. I know people are going to say it's Titus, but I do not care. I pronounce him Titus. Waka and Selfie from FF8 were there in their childlike form, which was really cool. One of the first memorable things I can remember playing in Destiny's Islands was doing training with Waka. And I got to tell you, he really pissed me off. And I was basically at that point, it became a mission to defeat him because um, I couldn't beat him for a couple of tries the first time around, but then I found out you could hit the ball right back in his face, and it just became so much fun. And it was the best way to rack up early levels before you get into the game. So that's all I was doing pretty much. So off the bat, I got to say, and I know people got issues with this, but I don't. I think Kingdom Hearts got some of the best controls ever in a game. I'm a big fan of action RPGs, and in terms of playing action RPGs all my life up until that point, I thought that this was the next step in how fluid an action RPG could feel, and it had a terrific lock-on system. I think it's still one of the best lock-on systems ever, next to the Legend of Zelda series. So it just felt so good. The environments to move around, it really was the pinnacle of 3D action RPG fare. And there's just so much to do, and I was just enjoyed, you know, every step of the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And to get back into the action RPGs, Kingdom Hearts was actually my first real action RPG because at that time, I'd been enjoying games like Final Fantasy and Recoded series, and a few others, like Legend of Dragoon, but never really delved into action RPGs, and also not owning a Nintendo console, never delved into, the biggest action RPG of them all is pretty much Zelda. But So that was a fantastic experience for me to, see all those Final Fantasy characters and see all those, typical magic spells and such, but in an action RPG setting. And like you said, I spent quite a lot of time at the Destiny Islands just figuring out those controls, and they are indeed very, very fluent.
Yeah, well, there's so much to do, like with the lock-on system, and of course, besides fighting the three kids, you also have the chance to fight Riku and kind of test out your ultimate skills. And of course, he gives the better XP, so you can keep leveling up when you fight Riku. But it really shows your skills. I remember getting my butt whooped the first time I played Kingdom Hearts, but a couple of years ago, I actually went back and played it again, and I whooped his butt within one go because I was just so used to the controls. So once you master the controls of Kingdom Hearts, it's so much fun to play. It's just so fluid. You can have so much fun. One of the things I really like to okay, one thing to talk about the Kingdom Hearts series is after the events of Destiny's Islands, Sora is spirited away to pretty much a universe full of Disney worlds. Now, this is where I kind of got iffy because, unlike Arrow, I'm not a huge Disney fan. I don't hate them, I'm just not as fond of them because I didn't really watch Disney movies growing up. I watched all the, I'd say, cult classics, watching movies that I shouldn't have watched at that young age. But yeah, so it was very hard for me to get into it. But I looked at the Disney worlds as if they could be in an RPG. And it was very fascinating to look at it and say, hey, it actually does work. Um, like Aladdin's World and the Arabic setting, Alice in Wonderland's, full of, wonder and adventure. Tarzan's probably the only world that I kind of was kind of less RPG for me, but they still tied that in very well. Um, but like I said, I'm probably this is probably why I can't hold Kingdom Hearts in the highest esteem. As much as I have fun playing the game, I still just don't have that fondness for Disney as other people do. However, there is a few worlds that I did love. I can say that now because there was one movie that I did not expect to be in the Disney universe of Kingdom Hearts that totally blew me away because it actually was my favorite childhood movie growing up, and that was Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas. Ah, when I went there, I and uh, this is Halloween played in the background. Oh, my body was moving. I was just so excited. It went to the part that I was just having fun playing the game. Just getting into more of the gameplay mechanics. There is a part of before you go into the Disney World where it's a place called Twilight Town, which is kind of like your hub where all the shops are, and the events in Town kind of introduce you to more Final Fantasy characters, and that's one of the other parts of Kingdom Hearts that got me really excited because it introduces Yuffie and Squall, as he's known as Leon in it. I still don't know why, but I've always called him Squall. And lastly, very toned down Sid Highwind. They really did, and Aerith. Thank you, Arrow. For all of you that don't know, he just typed that on the Skype chat, and I'm just like, hang on, I'm missing someone. Yeah, and good old Aerith. But yeah, it was so cool to see Sid being the shopkeeper, giving you all the items. I was half expecting him to cuss at any minute, but I forgot this is a Disney game as well, so yeah, I had to tone it down for him. But um, yeah, I think that's kind of what got me into the game a little bit more when I saw the familiar faces from all the Final Fantasy games that I was into. Yeah, that's pretty much just a couple of bits of ranting from my end. How about you, Arrow? Some thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 1?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of Kingdom Hearts 1, of course, and the main reason why I loved it so much, besides being a big Disney fan, is pretty much every world that you play in, at least the Disney worlds, they are basically, in terms of storytelling, are very condensed versions of the movies themselves. You know, the problems of the main Disney characters in those worlds, like say for instance the Night Before Christmas worlds, The characters experience the same thing that they are experiencing in the movies themselves. It's just that this time around, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are helping out, the main characters to, finish up the problems that they're usually having in the movies. And that's what I loved about that mostly because at that time, I had watched those movies growing up, but I hadn't watched them in quite a while. And to experience those movies once again, it was a blast, to play through each individual world and story once again, then move on to the next one, And that got pretty much all glued together with, fantastic gameplay, several worlds that were just a great blast, to play through, especially, Twilight Town. That was indeed one of my favorites, and just unlocking all the treasures that were available there. But one world that I really enjoyed was by far the Olympus Colosseum, which
Oh
is
yeah.
the Hercules world. And basically, Olympia's Coliseum works as a pretty much tournament type setting. It doesn't really have the biggest storyline until the second game, but basically Sora and his party they're able to go in these tournaments and fight against all the different bosses. And I believe there were like 5 or 6 different tournaments available, and all with eventually uh, fights against Leon and Selphie and Tidus and Waka, as well as some fantastic boss battles again, all leading up to pretty much the biggest and hardest boss in the game, which is Sephiroth as an optional battle, which he kicked my ass for a long time until I finally was able, to kill him, which was uh, really ridiculous because I had to grind for hours and hours on end.
That's he's absolutely ridiculous. He's still one of the hardest bosses ever in an action RPG, as he should be because he's the one-winged angel.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's there were some other optional bosses. I believe there was one in the Peter Pan world, as well as one in the Aladdin world. Those were just
Yeah,
normal
the
and
Agrabah.
heartless. Yeah, indeed. Those were okay, but they were manageable. They were still pretty difficult, but Sephiroth is just a really difficult optional boss. But that's what I liked about. That's what I like most about RPGs is those optional dungeons. Hey, that's why we call the segment on RPG gibberish is because all that optional stuff that you're able to go through. Extra side quests and Kingdom Hearts really had that in there. One part about Kingdom Hearts that I never really enjoyed is the addition of the travel between the worlds. You basically have your gummy ship that
Yeah.
that was manageable. You could upgrade it, and it was sort of a shooter, shmup type of gameplay. But it never felt as compelling and sort of like busy work with optional ship designs that you're able to grasp. But if you miss those, I never really enjoyed the gummy ship segments, and honestly, especially we'll talk about that in the second game, it became even less enjoyable. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much my only downside with Kingdom Hearts. I had such a blast. I played through it twice. On the normal and the hard setting, the proud mode. But all those worlds they lead up to one fantastic finale. Greg, please tell us all about the finale of Kingdom Hearts One.
Before I get into that quickly, you're not the only one with the gummy ships. I didn't enjoy that until the final ones, which I thought tied in well. It kind of thanks to Yoko Shinomura. The third gummy ship theme is actually pretty intense, and I really love that. But very quickly, the actual bits of Kingdom Hearts I didn't like. Of course, there's the gummy ships, Atlantica, basically that the new Under the Sea pisses me off every time I hear it. So I had to mute it when I was there, and I'm not really well. I wouldn't say I'm not fond of Winnie the Pooh anymore. Just kind of outgrown him. So I don't hate him. It's just I don't know. Yeah, you can call him
Understand.
charming if you want to. Just yeah, I don't know. But anyway, getting back to the matter at hand, the last 20% of Kingdom Hearts is the reason to buy the game because that took me completely by surprise. The end of the game takes place in a castle called Hollow Bastion, and everything about this area was screamed Squaresoft. It was just so good. This is the part of the game where Squaresoft kind of took over more than Disney, and I loved it so much. I loved how the story took its dramatic turn, just the atmosphere, the music, the enemies, everything, and you get to meet the main villain of the game, who is actually voiced by actor Billy Zane, and I have to say, it's his best work to date in any movie. Most of you will know him from Titanic, but as the main villain of Kingdom Hearts, he did a phenomenal job. As did the rest of the voice cast, which we have not touched up upon. One of the biggest pulls for Kingdom Hearts is the fact that, unlike all other video games that existed, this is one of the first major video games to have a proper, I wouldn't say Hollywood A grade cast, but there was a few celebrities in there. Of course, the biggest one being Sora, being voiced by Haley Joel Osment. But there was a few other greats and sort of cult B grade actors in there who have gone on from there to star in some pretty big uh, TV shows and everything. But that's a topic for another time. But it's one of the things that kind of sold me on Kingdom Hearts because I'm a big fan of voice acting, and I got to say the voice acting in Kingdom Hearts is top notch. Also, it's because that most of the big voice actors that do animation shows for Disney was also on board for doing the characters of Kingdom Hearts, or the Disney characters like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy. They did a really good job. I have to say so. It was one of the big selling points for me. But of course, then you have the final area that was even more. The atmosphere was just fantastic. They really pushed visuals and music and just story to the best possible place at the end of the game, and that's why I enjoyed it. And one of the most enjoyable final battles ever in a video game. So that's pretty much me for that. So, Ero, do you have anything to add?
Yo, it's definitely something that I forgot to mention. Is indeed the wonderful presentation. The soundtracks of all the games are absolutely fantastic. But indeed, the voice acting, the English voice acting, I'm a big fan of playing something in its original language. Whether I watch a movie, I want to watch it in its original language. But for the Kingdom Hearts series, that is one series that I'll always, listen to the English soundtrack over the Japanese one. I haven't even heard the Japanese one, but it's such a top-notch production that I will never, I can never go back. But that's something for a sort of a crossover game. Square Enix at that time, really put out all the stops and just made it a fantastic, fantastic game. And they marketed it perfectly, and it led to a wonderful experience. And that final part of the game just really hyped you up. And the one thing that I want to add is something that Kingdom Hearts series is, even I have to be honest and compare this to Metal Gear Solid, but they're so close together, and the way they set you up for the sequel on both series is just ridiculous. After the credits, and if you do some specific stuff, you're able to see a secret ending that people who know the Metal Gear Solid series, they are known for. They know how Kojima handles that, but Kingdom Hearts does it as well. They have these trailers of hyping you up, and they did it for the first time in Kingdom Hearts 1, kind of leading you up, to uh, the second game, and that really got me going. Anticipation of the second Kingdom Hearts.
In Kingdom Hearts 2, which was released on December of 2005. It was one of the most awaited games that Square ever made. It already, within the first couple of years that Kingdom Hearts was released, it generated a fanatical fan base that wanted nothing more than to see the next installment of the Kingdom Hearts series. I could personally say, with all the friends that I was around that time, that's all they were thinking about. All they wanted to play was Kingdom Hearts 2. Um, Strangely enough, I think I had a lot of other games at the time, but eventually I got around to playing Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, I got to say this, that was one of the most, I would say, teased games ever. Square did a wonderful job of just teasing fans with, trailers and websites and just got everyone really excited. Of course, everyone remembers the epic opening of Kingdom Hearts 2, the epic track known as was it Hikari? I believe it was.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Or yeah, and of course that's still sung today by fans whenever go to cons. But it's very interesting how they went with Kingdom Hearts 2. It's really cool that Arrow referenced Kojima because whenever I think of Kingdom Hearts 2, it feels like Nomura kind of borrowed a little inspiration from Hideo Kojima. Because one thing they've done in Kingdom Hearts 2 that was kind of, I would say, 50-50 with fans is they really did inject a lot of complicated plot lines into the story. Um, and it left a lot of unanswered questions. Now, in terms of gameplay, it's pretty much retains its action RPG system. They added a little couple of things to it. One
Drive
is
form.
the brave form. Oh, yeah, cool, the drives, yeah. Well, that was one thing, kind of acts as a limit break. I thought that was cool. It reminded me of FF7's limit break sort of system, which I really liked. And also, probably one of the main things that I kind of liked what Kingdom Hearts 2 did, not only for the series, but for games in question, is without a doubt, it made the game more cinematic in terms of in gameplay. Like there's certain events that'd be triggered in your command bar that would happen at the end of a battle, and to see your characters perform this amazing move, you know, it kind of just add another dynamic, that helped the story, being shown in a visual aspect, you know, and it gets really intense towards the end in the final battle. I really enjoyed it. I think they struck gold with having this cinematic action gameplay they've just stumbled upon in Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's kind of become a staple for the Kingdom Hearts teams workings later on after Kingdom Hearts 2. So, in terms of gameplay, it's still a pretty fun game. In terms of story, it kind of left a lot open. I know they wanted to delve into other sort of parts that they've introduced in Kingdom Hearts 2, like the Nobodies, which is another sort of form of enemies other than the Heartless who were in Kingdom Hearts 1. And they added a whole new group of villains, uh, which is Organization 13, that made their debut in Kingdom Hearts 2 and was very quickly intrigued by fans across the globe. I can tell you this now, RPG fans, they were the reason that I was excited for Kingdom Hearts 2 because I saw them in their black cloaks and I wanted to know more about them. But that's pretty much all I got to say about Kingdom Hearts 2 for now, so I'll hand it over to Arrow.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned something very interesting, and that was the moment that I played Kingdom Hearts 2. While we'll get into that later on, back between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, there was a Game Boy Advance title released called Chain of Memories, which I played before I played Kingdom Hearts 2. But we'll get to that later on in the next part. But the thing with Kingdom Hearts 2 at that time, I wasn't really playing as many games as I could at that time. You know, Final Fantasy 12, Metal Gear Solid 3, Kingdom Hearts 2 were all those hyped up games for me, but I just didn't really care that much and I postponed them later on. I think Kingdom Hearts was already out for a couple of months until I finally picked a copy up. But one thing that is very interesting to note uh, is I played Kingdom Hearts 2 and I wanted to challenge myself. And I made pretty much the mistake of starting on the Proud mode. And this was, years after I finished Kingdom Hearts 1. I started playing on Proud mode and, pretty much played through the game about, let's say, 75%. And at that time, you were meeting Organization 13 characters, and boss fights. And I remember just getting my ass handed to me in the later, stages of the game. I remember there was a Organization 13 member who used his guitar. I believe his name was Demix.
Yep.
He completely slaughtered me, and eventually I was able to beat him until I moved on to the Beauty and the Beast world, one of my favorite Disney movies. where you had to fight Zykes, and
Uh,
whoa, that I just gave up on the game there. I just couldn't beat him. I had to give up. Probably got distracted by some other games as well at that time. I remember it was summer of 2006 or 2007, summer of 2007, and my friends and I we got into this huge 200-hour craze of Final Fantasy 12. So Kingdom Hearts 2 was postponed, and I didn't finish it, and I just kind of felt, you know, a little bit done with Kingdom Hearts, um, which was very sad because about a year and a half later, I moved back to Kingdom Hearts 2 and finished it, those final 25%, and kind of honestly rushed to the end just to see the ending of the game and the story, and didn't really, bother that much with the hidden content except for Sephiroth, which is again a optional boss in the second game. But I just rushed through it, and I kind of lost my touch with Kingdom Hearts 2, uh, for all the wrong reasons, because Kingdom Hearts 2 is indeed one of the, it's a fantastic sequel. In terms of story, the way they expanded on the storyline with the Organization 13 was just fantastic. At that time, I was also delving into anime for the first time. And I draw a lot of comparisons to, anime that I was watching at the time called, Naruto and Bleach, who also have the habit of setting you up with a huge set of characters, but not releasing a lot of information about them, and you're really hyped up to meet all these characters, see the abilities of each one, and that was sort of my hype at the time. So I was really interested to see all the members of Organization 13, but the overall story of the mythology of Kingdom Hearts is what interested me the most. You basically all the characters and enemies in the world, they have these hearts, and once a character dies, that part of the heart moves on into a different shell, which is the nobody, and they really have an interesting mythology for the series. And so you have the dark side and the light side, and the nobodies and the heartless, all struggling, to fight for their lives, and for their place in the universe. And that's what I really enjoyed about Kingdom Hearts 2. Gameplay wise, Greg already mentioned it. The reaction commands and the limit break drive forms were great. Uh, but my high point for Kingdom Hearts 2 was a moment in Hollow Bastion, which I believe
yeah,
got transformed into Radiant Garden, where there was the 1,000 enemy
yeah.
battle, and that was just mind-blowingly awesome because we had Cloud and Squall uh, also present there. They were fighting as well, and just absolutely mind-blowing experience. To me, that part of the game is worth to pick up Kingdom Hearts 2 for sure.
Absolutely, that was one of my favorite scenes. I'm also going to touch into another one of my favorite scenes. Final Fantasy 7 fans, take present now. One of the things that they did with Kingdom Hearts 2 that I thought was very clever of Square to do, they used a spot in the game to kind of connect with Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, because that was released around that time. Now, the thing about Kingdom Hearts 1, it was the first time they had a voice for like Final Fantasy VII characters like Yuffie and Eris and of course Cloud. Now, when Advent Children came out, there was more of the characters that they got voices for. So when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, they brought most of the cast members into Kingdom Hearts 2, or three of them, which is Cloud, Tifa, and Sephiroth. Now, one of the things that fans were kind of 50-50 on in number one is Sephiroth was voiced by one of the Backstreet Boys, and they weren't too fond of that. However, when they got George Newborn, who was the voice of Sephiroth to do Kingdom Hearts 2 and Advent Children, he seems like the pitch perfect voice for Sephiroth. I was so excited at the events of Kingdom Hearts 2 between Cloud, Sephiroth, and Tifa. That was probably one of my favorite moments. And the other favorite moment of Kingdom Hearts 2, probably my most favorite moment, is the final battle. I loved the final battle in Kingdom Hearts 1, but 2, oh my god. It really blew me away. I loved every second of it, and You know, ultimately, I was really worried at how the story was going to turn up, but I thought it turned out for the best, and I was really happy at how it ended. Now, one thing I want to touch upon before I'll finish up with my thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 2 is I'll get into the voice acting again. They got all the other actors to do bits of the Disney worlds like Mulan. They got uh, you know, the actress who did the voice of Mulan, who was also the voice actress of the main character of Final Fantasy Spirits Within. She did a good job, but the biggest surprise for me, and I got to say, I'm a fan of this actor. He's one of my all-time favorite actors in movies. They got him to do Kingdom Hearts 2, and I was blown away
I
for the
know
character.
exactly who you're talking about.
They got him to do the character of Diz, and of course that is Christopher Lee.
Oh
And
yeah,
oh
definitely.
my god, I cannot believe they got him to do it. This was a couple of years just after the release of Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars movies. So it was very cool to have him in that role, and it really kind of added another element to the story, which I was very thankful for. The downside of the voice acting was Billy Zane did not come back. Originally, he was intended to do I don't want to spoil the story too much, but sort of like another sort of version of the villain of the series, and he was supposed to come back and reprise his voice again, but alas, they couldn't do it. So they got someone else who has now been the staple voice for that central form of character, and he's done a really good job. But so yeah, all the fans, all the Kingdom Hearts fans that wondering I'm talking about Zemnis, of course, you know,
Yeah.
and all his different other versions. Just did a really good job. But all in all, I enjoy Kingdom Hearts 2. A lot of people thought it was very like Sons of Liberty at how they added a lot of new elements and it kind of went out of whack. But that's what makes the next couple of games worth mentioning because they tie into Kingdom Hearts 2 and the entire saga very well and answer some of those questions.
Oh yeah, definitely. The upcoming games. There's just in a few minutes we have left. There's something I want to mention for Kingdom Hearts 2, and uh, that is once again, the way how they set up the game. There have been a number of spin-offs, but pretty much Kingdom Hearts 2 is, except for one, the final part in chronologically the final part of the game. Uh, Again, referring to the Metal Gear Solid series, Metal Gear Solid 2 was for a very long time the final part in a chronological series until they moved back in time, all the way up until Metal Gear Solid 4. And that's what we're waiting for the Kingdom Hearts series right now. But we'll talk a little bit more about the spin offs later on. One thing to wrap up the Kingdom Hearts 2 is that in terms of the worlds, they included definitely some of my favorites. I'm a big fan of Mulan. It's definitely one of my favorite movies. They included the Steamboat Willie, which is the first Mickey Mouse world, and just they also added in, Lion King and Tron and Beauty
That
and the Beast.
Lion King was my favorite because I gotta admit I like the. I'm not a big fan of Disney, but I love the Lion King. So
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of my favorite movies, but also to see Tron included, which of course now has its sequel, Tron 2. That was definitely a great surprise, and all I can say is to finally wrap up Kingdom Hearts 2 is uh, you should play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 back to back and really immerse yourself into one of the most fantastic stories. If you haven't done so, please do so, in anticipation of the, possible upcoming Kingdom Hearts 3. So yeah, definitely give Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 a try. And now we're going to be moving on into the sort of spin-offs but also fantastic games into the series. Alright, welcome back everybody. Let's talk a little bit more about the Kingdom Hearts, side games. There have been quite a few games released outside of the main series, Kingdom Hearts 1, 2. And that's pretty much, there are four different games, but the game we're going to be starting with is pretty much Kingdom Hearts 1.5, and that is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Now, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories was indeed released in between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 back in 2005 on the Game Boy Advance. And it's an interesting game. It takes place right after the ending of Kingdom Hearts 1 and pretty much, starts all the way up until the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. And this time you once again play as Sora, Goofy, and Donald. who find their way into a Castle Oblivion. And in this castle, in typical, side game fare, they lose all their memories and all their skills up to that part that they learned in Kingdom Hearts 1 to basically have to start off once again. And since this is a Game Boy Advance game, the graphics of course take a huge hit, but for a uh, Game Boy Advance game, the style of the game is still very reminiscent of the Kingdom Hearts series, and what's what I like about most of it is it's very colorful, and it has all the characters. Sadly, not a lot of voice acting. There are some, FMV movies, but Chain of Memories, there are so many side games, for a wonderful series, but Chain of Memories is definitely one of the more enjoyable ones that are out there. Funnily enough, the Square Kingdom Hearts division co-developed it with Jupiter, which actually also developed one of my other favorite DS games, The World Ends with You, which is just definitely a great game, kind of reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts style and such. But in any ways, back to Chain of Memories. The way this game is different is it's still an action RPG. You still move around the field, but instead of just attack and magic spells, you now have a deck of cards. Which it sounds weird. It's definitely not a card game. Once again, I have to compare this to the Metal Gear Solid series. They also released Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, which were just, traditional card games and you had to pick cards. This is more action packed, you have a wheel of cards that you're able to mix and match. Selecting different cards, leads into a specific combo, which, it involves a little bit more strategy instead of, just hitting attack and or just, doing fire, ice, and such. But you know, going into it, I really enjoyed it because it was my first handheld. The Game Boy Advance just had it, and I just was really enjoying Chain of Memories. And in terms of storyline, um, you play through Sora, who at that time meets all the different characters from the Organization 13. I believe you meet around 4 or 5 different characters from Chain of Memories, from the Organization 13. Sorry, and you basically go through it and get set up once again perfectly for the second game, which takes place right at the end. But another thing that's very interesting with Chain of Memories is once you finish the game with Sora, you are able to play the entire game once again as Riku, which at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, they basically have this relationship of friend and villain, and you don't really know what happened with Riku at the end of the game, except for, you know, he met up with King Mickey and such. But you're able to play through the entire game as Riku again, and his side, he meets different characters from Organization 13, and once again ties into that big storyline. And it is definitely great to see Riku as a playable character as well, which is something that hasn't happened, throughout the rest of the games. So, you basically get 2 games for the price of one. It's not as long as the first Kingdom Hearts games, but overall a very solid Game Boy Advance game. However, there is something very interesting to note about Chain of Memories, and that is that something that Square-Enix does a lot is they release the game in Japan, re-released or just port the game to Europe and North America, and then Square Enix decides to re-release a special type of game. In this form, Kingdom Hearts 1 was re-released as a final mix, and they did the same for Kingdom Hearts 2, which got Kingdom Hearts 2 final mix only in Japan. About a year and a half afterwards. But what this included was a full remade version of Chain of Memories. So they basically took the entire Chain of Memories game, and just completely upgraded from GBA to PlayStation 2 with voice acting, with fully rendered cutscenes, and this was just, this is something that hasn't been, done before. It's, just take a Game Boy Advance game and then just completely remake it and just add it as a pretty much a bonus in Kingdom Hearts 2. But what is very interesting about is, and sad for us Europeans is Square Enix decided to just release Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, as it's called, uh, as a standalone disc in North America. I have a copy of the game in my hands, and sadly, it's an NTSC PlayStation 2 game, so I'm unable to play it. Now, I did watch comparison videos online, and I've seen the cutscenes, and all I can say is if you're a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, you owe it to yourself to check out Chain of Memories if you're able to play it. Uh, in terms of comparing the Game Boy Advance game to this, unless you really want to play it handheld, this is definitely the definitive version of the game. It has voice acting. It has that same style that you're so used to in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and just the gameplay, despite the fact that you're playing with a deck of cards, feels really similar to the older Kingdom Hearts games, and it's a great game, and hopefully I'm able to one day get my hands on the NTSC PlayStation 2, so I'm able to play this one and re-experience this Chain of Memories once again. But in terms of side game, this was definitely a great first experience, outside of the main line of Kingdom Hearts games, and I can recommend either version wholeheartedly to big fans of Kingdom Hearts. Greg, have you played Chain of Memories or Chain of Memories?
I haven't played either. Chain of Memories is the only Kingdom Hearts, aside from another one we'll talk about later on that just got released, the only two games I actually haven't played yet. Now, I've had many chances to play Chain of Memories, but I got sidetracked by other series that I was into. And unfortunately, it got to the point where it was too late. There was pretty much no copies to be found anymore in Australia. And they'd probably be hiding somewhere. But I did watch a lot of videos and read a lot of articles, and it looked pretty good. It's just at that time I just didn't have time for it. But one of these days when I find it, I think I will give it a go. Um, Especially the PS2 version. The PS2 version looks really nice, and that's pretty much it. It's a nice little story that ties into Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, and ties in well to the next game we're going to talk about, which is Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days.
All right. I honestly, I know it's one of those side games, and I recently delved back into the Kingdom Hearts series. And first thing I wanted to do is finish the PlayStation Portable game Birth by Sleep, which I've done now. And I'm currently in the process of beating the DS game 358 over 2 days, which I don't even want to get into the title. It's one of the most ridiculous titles I've ever heard. But I'm about, I say, 8 to 10 hours into the game. I've met some of the characters, but I believe you have finished the game, so I believe you are more expert on 358 over 2 days.
Now, I have to admit, first up, I don't mind 358 days, but I got to say, it does has its fair share of problems in terms of controls. I got to say, from all the Kingdom Hearts games I've played, I think this is the game that took the hit with controls. It didn't feel as good as the other games. Just what the DS provided, it just didn't feel right for a Kingdom Hearts game. However, I looked past that and I mastered the controls and did the best I could. Now, one thing about the story about 358 Days is it totally is about Roxas and Organization 13. And it pretty much ties into, you know, basically what happens at the end of Kingdom Hearts to what goes into Chain of Memories, and ultimately what happens before Kingdom Hearts 2. And it's very good to play all those games before going to 358 days, so you can get the most out of it. But what I like about 358 days, it adds more story, tells more about Organization 13, who they are, what they want, what they're striving for, and it gives each member more personality instead of just being a bunch of thugs and villains in Kingdom Hearts 2. It gives them, more information, makes them more of a character. Uh, but yeah, and I like the fact that you got to basically go to missions, fight alongside them, and earn. Totally forgot what you had to earn. I think it was hearts. You had to collect hearts for the day when they, you know, when Kingdom Hearts finally comes. So it's been a while since I played it, but that's what I can vaguely remember. But how the game works out is there is a hub, which is the final area of Kingdom Hearts 2, where the Organization 13 dwells. Totally forgotten the name
The
of
world
that.
that never was.
Well, there never was. That's it. And basically, from there, you're given a set of missions. Of course, lots of portable games use this. Because of the lack of memory, they usually like to have games where they have one main hub that joins into lots of missions. And at the time of the DS and the PSP, there were games constantly like that. So it didn't surprise me that they decided to use that, which turned out to be effective because there was plenty of content to have uh, in the form of missions, which are really good. And what's really cool is if you wanted to grind, you could actually go back and challenge the missions again or do time attack and fulfill certain requests and all that to give you more bonuses. One of the most interesting parts of 358 Days is the link panel system, where basically whenever you got a panel, it would upgrade or provide an extra options in your commands menu. And that was actually the form of leveling up, is you would actually get a level up panel and you would place it in the link panels, and that would increase your character's level. However, there was panels that would multiply other panels. So you would put a level panel in like a multiply by 3 panel, and you got 3 levels. So it was quite an interesting system to grasp at first, but the more you invested in the game, the better it become, and you can optimize your character for how you would like to play with them. But other than that, I really did enjoy it. I must admit, it would be very hard for me to go back after. It's one of those games where it's good to play one time, but that's pretty much all you need. And for being a DS game, I think Square did the best that they could have under the circumstances, and it's a decent game. It has its flaws, but I mostly enjoyed it.
All right. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm still playing it, and that link panel system, it's a little bit, hard to grasp. I'm currently, just doing a lot of missions and, meeting all the organization members, but I haven't really bothered that much with the link panel system, and I really have to delve into that, and figure out the system, so I'm able, to make my life a lot easier. But yeah, from what I've seen so far, it's very interesting. It's nice to replay some of the worlds once again, from the earlier Kingdom Hearts games. But and I like the story so far. It's nice to see, more about the organization members. But what I, or at least what I hope to see more, is to meet a little bit more about how Organization 13 came to be, which is something, I'm playing with the Organization 13 members. That's nice, but I want to see how the organization was founded. That's something that, even as playing through a lot of the Kingdom Hearts games, is something that I don't know. But 358 Days is an enjoyable game. And compared to the game that I'm going to be talking about in the next part, which is Kingdom Hearts Recoded, it's definitely the better DS game. But we're running out of time, so please join us on the next part where we'll talk about Kingdom Hearts Recoded as well as Birth by Sleep. Alright, so the next game we're going to be talking about is Kingdom Hearts Coded and Kingdom Hearts Recoded. Now, basically, what happened is, in typical, Japanese, development style, is they released a mobile phone game on the Docomo platform, which was Kingdom Hearts Coded. It was an episodic game with included, a little bit of mini games and some platforming segments, as well as, action RPG style and some different styles all thrown together. And luckily enough, this game got ported to the DS earlier this year. It was released at the end of 2010 in Japan and was released in January this year. I have played a little bit of the game, just an hour and a half, and of Kingdom Hearts Recoded on the DS. And honestly, it's probably my least favorite game in the series. Basically, on two aspects, and that is the gameplay is just too different. It's more a puzzle mini game type of game instead of just traditional action RPG. You know, even Chain of Memories and 358 Days have that action RPG style, even though it's not, you know, on PlayStation 2. But what I, you know, dislike most about Kingdom Hearts Recoded is the story. The story, it does take place after Kingdom Hearts 2, so in terms of chronologically, it's after, you know, the fantastic setup for Kingdom Hearts 2, you know. But it's basically, you know, one of your characters in your party, Jiminy Cricket, is basically the bookkeeper of the journals and such, and he finds out this journal that's blank, and there's this message thank Namine in there, and then all of a sudden they analyze the journal and it gets corrupted, and they basically have to go inside the computer world where there is this data form of Sora and a data form of Riku. And I've only played it for maybe 2 hours, so I have to play it more. But as I'm playing 358 Days and Coded at the same time, I have to say that my initial, you know, experience, I'm enjoying 358 Days way more than Coded, and it's my least favorite game of the series. But I'm going to play it more. Greg, have you played Recoded?
No, I haven't. And to be perfectly honest, from what I've seen, the game's probably it's not appealing for me. I probably will get it when it's really cheap, but what from I've heard from other fans, from what I've seen, it doesn't really interest me that much. But I'll give it a go if I come across it for cheap, pretty much.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's one thing that I want to mention though is one thing that they added for the recoded version is just, in my opinion, a complete teaser. And the if you beat the game, you basically get kind of a setup for both Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance as well as Kingdom Hearts 3, which is pretty much the biggest. I don't want to be too harsh on the game, but it sounds like a big, you know, sort of fuck you message from Square, where it's basically like, you know, playthrough are. They know that it's the least favorite game in the series. It's the one that, you know, was on mobile phones, and it's basically, you know, play through our, I don't want to say crappy game, and you get rewarded with a story. But you know, if I really struggle playing through the game, I might just check out what they're talking about on that hidden cutscene, you know, on YouTube or something. But I'm going to be playing 358 Days first, and then check out if I can beat Recoded. But I don't like that type of stuff. You know, get rewarded with a bonus. It's, yeah, I understand it at one side, but it's a little bit disappointing. But
It should be an Easter egg. It shouldn't be the reward to play the game. It should be an extra. The reward should be the game's experience as a whole. You know. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It just feels to me that they thrown in that extra just to up sales for Recoded, because they basically, you know, that's the biggest change they did for Recoded, except for put it on a DS and upgraded the graphics, is add in that, you know, that hidden scene of, or I believe it's about 10 minutes long or something. But yeah, that's all about Recoded. However, in total contrast to Recoded, let's move on to, I'm just flat out going to say it, my favorite game uh, in the side games, and that is the PSP exclusive Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And honestly, they could have just called this game Kingdom Hearts Zero or even Kingdom Hearts 3. It is that good. But Greg, please tell us all about Birth by Sleep.
Birth by Sleep, as Zero have said, is the basically the predecessor to all the Kingdom Hearts games and sets up most of the plot lines and does a fantastic job. I wasn't too sure about Birth by Sleep because at that time I was kind of done with the Kingdom Hearts series. And to actually let you all know, I actually played 358 days after I played Birth by Sleep. So I was kind of off the series a little bit. I was just sidetracked playing numerous other RPGs. But I saw a trailer for it, and I, again, like Kingdom Hearts, I was 50-50 on it. But I decided to give it a chance because it was on my favorite platform of this generation, the PSP. So I loaded it up, and the story initially interested me. It takes place of three characters. And this is a system I love in RPGs where you play numerous different storylines with different characters, which all leads up to a finale with all of them. And that's what happens in Birth by Sleep. You have Ventus, Aqua, and Terra. And what's really cool about these characters in terms of gameplay is they're very different. Like Ventus is all about speed, Aqua is all about magic, and Terra's all about physical power. And it's really cool to have these free choices depending on your style of game. But what I like most of all is how all the stories link up. Different events will happen for different characters, and they'll link up at some point in time in the main storyline. I love when games do that. That for me was probably one of the biggest things that I noticed off the bat of what I loved about Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Second of all, the graphics is as good as the original game. It looks absolutely gorgeous on the PSP. At that time, it was definitely probably the best looking game on the PSP. I got to say, it did require a whopping great install. I can't remember how much it was. It must have been around 500 or 600 meg, but it was very giant, and it really did help for the load times because there's just so much that went into this game. Uh, but like I said, it just really does feel like a Kingdom Hearts game. I know Arrow said it's a side game, but it really does feel like a proper Kingdom Hearts game in just terms of how the story was presented. The cutscenes just so reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. It's just you should just call it Kingdom Hearts 0. It really should. But in terms of story and the characters, aside from the three main characters, you have Xehanort, of course, uh, which is the villain of Birth by Sleep, and I won't spoil it, but you have to play it to see what happens. But he is voiced by Leonard Nimoy, and Leonard Nimoy does a fantastic job. He is one of the best. I gotta say, he won my award for the best voiceover in an RPG in 2010. He did a really good job being the voice of the villain, and it was just amazing they got Leonard Nimoy to do his voice. Other than that, there's one other character I really like from Birth by Sleep, and that is Master Eriquis. That is the Keyblade Master of Ventus Tower and Aqua. And surprisingly, Star Wars fans, get on your knees and bow, is voiced by Mark Hamill, which also took me by surprise because he also did a wonderful job as the lawful Master Eriquis. So it threw a few surprises in there. So I've talked about what I liked about Birth by Sleep. I'll get into the ending again of the game again because, like Kingdom Hearts 1, that's where the game really shines. But before I get into there, I have to talk about one gripe that made me nearly quit playing Birth by Sleep. In Birth by Sleep, there is a place called Disney Town.
Ugh.
And for Terra's storyline, in order to beat Disney Town, you have to basically visit basically the triplets. I keep forgetting what they're called from DuckTales, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And what they have in store for you is, without a doubt, one of the worst side games ever in an RPG, and as the ice cream rhythm game. RPG fans, I'm going to say this to you now. I was going to be one PSP lit less after playing that game. It took me 2 days to finally get through it. And on the end of the first day playing it, I was ready to throw my PSP at the brick wall. I was that angry. I absolutely despise most rhythm games, and having that as a compulsory uh, thing you had to do really pissed me off. And I beg Square never to do that again. That's all I can say. And for all of you that haven't played it, just brace yourself on how stupid that mini game is. Now, it's okay. It's pretty unfair for me to go guns blazing at it because rhythm games is not my favorite genre. I really don't care for rhythm games that much. So it wasn't the best for me. I can tell you that now.
All right. Yeah. When you were talking about, I hadn't heard this story before, but in my opinion, the Disney Town area is indeed the one that puts the experience quite to a halt It's pretty much about 75% into one of the character storyline, and they throw in this world to you. But once you start talking about the rhythm game, I can't really remember me struggling there. I'm quite a big fan of the rhythm games, especially on the DS, like the Elite Beat Agent series. I really enjoy that. And honestly, I am very psyched for the upcoming Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy rhythm game on the 3DS. But Disney Town was indeed my least favorite world, and the placement of the world was definitely my least favorite. You know, that's where you want to see the ending of the games of the story of one character, but it's a little bit disappointing. They should have placed it earlier on. But in terms of worlds, I really enjoy that in Birth by Sleep. You know, you see Olympus Coliseum, where Hercules is still young, and you see Zack from Crisis Core as well. They thrown in, Snow White and Cinderella worlds. Just overall the worlds, they are great. You know, you have the Lilo and Stitch world, and a few that I might be forgetting. So many different worlds, but in terms of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, it is definitely one of my favorite games on the PlayStation Portable. It is indeed a fantastic RPG. This week alone, I pretty much played through the Terra story and midway with Aqua. So I continue with it after a pretty much a year of hiatus, and I finished Aqua's and Ventus' story and seen the total ending of the game, and just uh, Birth by Sleep, together with Legend of Hero Trails in the Sky and Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, they are my favorite games on the PSP. And honestly, the Kingdom Hearts series, I wasn't really feeling it, with all those side games being released, 358 Days and Recoded. And my experience with Kingdom Hearts 2, I was kind of done with it. But Birth by Sleep pulled me back in, and just completely revitalized my interest in the series. That's why I'm playing through 358 Days and Recoded right now, just to completely finish the entire series all the way up for the upcoming games we'll talk about later on. But just absolutely fantastic gameplay. Just the gameplay is awesome. The differences with the characters, just meeting all those characters, segmented throughout the game. At some points you meet Aqua if you're playing with Vance and stuff like that. It's just absolutely fantastic. But the big draw for me is the story and how they are kind of setting it up for the sequel, which is something I'm really psyched for. Is basically, these three characters tie into Sora and Riku's storyline altogether. And I'm not going to spoil it, but this is one of the best prequels, like Metal Gear Solid 3. Once again, just absolutely fantastic. But Greg, please tell a little bit more about Birth by Sleep.
I just think it's fascinating that as hardcore Kojima fans, we're trying to compare everything to Metal Gear Solid. But it's really fascinating when we think about it, how it is. But great minds think alike, I think. Okay, both like I said to Arrow, I was the same. Birth by Sleep not only pulled me back, I still believe Birth by Sleep is the best Kingdom Hearts. It's my favorite Kingdom Hearts game because just how well the story is. And like Kingdom Hearts 1, the end of the game is where it really shines. The Keyblade Graveyard is just such a great atmosphere. And one thing we forgot to mention is the first time the world of Birth by Sleep was shown was actually at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2.
Indeed.
So it was pretty much 5 years that this world was hinted to gamers everywhere. They knew this event was going to happen, but they didn't know when and where in the timeline. So it was very interesting how it all came. But the thing that really blew my mind is I always had that secret trailer in my mind with the three Keyblade Masters, of course, which ended up to be Ventus, Terra, and Aqua. But when you go to play that bit at the end, how streamless that trailer becomes into the cutscenes. You know, it's pretty much the same, but it adds a whole new dimension. And I just got a really big kick about how it got to that point in time. You know, I just loved it. And the last couple of fights, it was just magnificent. Just some of the best fights in the series. Now, I don't want to spoil, especially Terra's storyline, but let's just say you gotta play Birth by Sleep just for what happens to Terra at the end of the game. It's just amazing, just how they went about it, and it's just worth buying the game just for that alone. But yeah. I gotta admit, there's this other character in the game called Vanitas, and he kind of resembles Riku in his Heartless suit, except you can't see his face. Now, I'm not going to spoil who's under the mask, but let's just put it this way. Some random fan decided to basically take a screenshot when Vanitas unmasks himself. And for who you see who it resembles, they only had one thing to say under this picture, and that is Tetsuya Nomura has no idea what he's doing anymore, which I thought was really funny. But at the same time, I played the game and I thought it was very interesting that he chose to do what he did for that character. Let's just put it that way. Some fans disagreed. I was very intrigued. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just, it's been a few days since I saw that reveal as well as the secret endings, and wow, I'm really blown away at, at the same time people from the outside think this is just a very convoluted storyline, but for me being right there once again, repeating myself with the Metal Gear Solid series as well as the Kingdom Hearts series, this just ties in so perfectly together, and I am so hyped up for the upcoming games. I even going as far for me to being day one purchase because I can't wait to see the continuation of the story. The way they set this the Birth by Sleep up with the the first two games in the series is just teasing to the maximum.
Yeah. One thing I just want to add before I kind of finish up on Birth by Sleep is one of the other reasons I thought was very awesome in Birth by Sleep is it shows the lives of the members of Organization 13 before they became nobodies. And I thought that was really cool. You know, it showed another side of them, and I thought that was a excellent addition to uh, the game as a whole. And you got to see how everything links up at the end. And of course, the ultra mega secret ending that was absolutely mind blowing. I didn't do it in the game, I just basically copped out and watched it on YouTube. But wow, that was just amazing. That really was. It's probably my favorite secret ending, and I can't wait, like Arrow says, for the next proper game in the series. uh, which we'll talk about our thoughts on it later on.
Oh yeah, definitely, and yeah, Birth by Sleep is just a fantastic experience, and it is one of my favorite PSP games, and it got me back to the Kingdom Hearts series. And I think that's pretty much it on the current games that have been released in the Kingdom Hearts series. So I think it's already time to start talking a little bit about the future. And basically, there are so yeah, the upcoming game for the Kingdom Hearts series is Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance, and that is both a very lame but also very clever title, as I recently found out. The 3D not only connects to the game is on the 3DS, so it will have probably have 3D graphics, but also Dream Drop Distance, three capital D's, Kingdom Hearts 3D. You know, it's the Kingdom Hearts series is something that has insane titles. Birth by Sleep, Chain of Memories. They all tie into the story eventually. I believe even 358 over 2 days ties into the story, which I haven't seen yet because I haven't finished it. But Dream Drop Distance, it's an interesting title, but it's supposed to be about the game. Now, the game was announced, when the 3DS was announced, and we got some updates on it earlier this year at the event from Square. But, as you're listening to this, TGS is already over, so we know more information. But we're recording this a week before TGS, and Square has announced that they're going to be having a lot of gameplay as well as a playable demo of Kingdom Hearts 3D available at TGS. So for now, there's almost nothing available, but from what we've gathered is that the game chronologically takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2. So it's going to continue on the story that has been hinted at all the endings in the previous setup. So uh, this game alone will probably be the big setup for the eventual, and probably at least the game that I hope is going to be the end of the series, which is going to be Kingdom Hearts 3. So for that alone, I'm very psyched to play Dream Drop Distance. I don't own a 3DS yet because I'm waiting for great games, and this is definitely one of my top games that I really want to play. It not only continues the storyline, it goes back with Sora and Riku being playable characters, and they are going on a quest to be put through the Mark of Mastery exam. Same for the characters in Birth by Sleep who underwent the same exam to become true Keyblade masters. In in response to a potential return of all the main bad guys. And if you want to spoil yourself, just check out Wikipedia because it says there. That's something we're struggling with. How many people have played all the games, but Dream Drop Distance is turning out to be a fantastic, game, and I'm very psyched for TGS to see, both gameplay as well as a release date, because it's supposed to be going out, early 2012, in commemoration of the 10th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts, which is February 2012.
Dream Drop Distance, clever Square for 3Ds, 3D, haha. But yeah, I saw that when I was basically there. I was trying to watch the conference, but I couldn't because I had to found out that you had to be a member of a certain website and you had to log in, which I couldn't do because it was in Japanese, so I couldn't watch any footage. Luckily, there was some not so loyal fans that ripped all the trailers and released them in the internet. And at that night, I got to see it very quickly before they got taken down by Square. But a couple of weeks later, I actually got to see the trailers, and of course, a lot of them were, Final Fantasy 13 verses and Type Zero. But the other one, of course, was Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. And the first thing that kind of, I must admit, didn't have a good I didn't have a good opinion of it. It was Sora and Riku back at Twilight Town, but I was thinking, was this another retelling of one? That was my first initial thought. But then it had Ansem and Zemnis, and I thought this is different. So I was wondering if this was another retelling from some point in time after Kingdom Hearts 2. So I wasn't really too sure, and a lot of fans were very angry that they we're still creating all these weird side games and not getting to Kingdom Hearts 3. But it wasn't until recently, actually tonight, that I found out that there's a bit more to it, as Arrow's already said, that basically Yen Sid decides to put Sora and Riku through the Keyblade Master Exam, which of course was one of the big things in Birth by Sleep. So I think that's awesome. They decided to make that a staple in the series. It also it just kind of you can kind of compare them to to Jedi's. I know Star Wars fans are going to kick out of that. It kind of feels like that, just it's funny that how that turned out. But I think it's a really cool idea, and that alone has probably interested me enough to give the game a go. I don't have a 3DS at the moment, but I'm waiting until Tales of the Abyss 3D comes out. But I'll definitely get Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance when it comes out. Now, before that happens, I actually do want to see the secret trailer from Recoded. I don't know if I'll play Recoded, but I'll definitely watch that trailer to get me hyped up for Dream Drop Distance.
All right, yeah, definitely give it a try. It's not something mind blowing, because they announced that they have to go to the Mark of Mastery. But for completionist sake, definitely give it a shot. I'll see if Recoded picks up. But yeah, Dream Drop Distance is going to be awesome. But from there on out, everybody is, from before the PlayStation 3 launched, I was already anticipating the announcement of Kingdom Hearts 3. And all my favorite series have released its games. Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, and a bunch of others on the PlayStation 3. But Kingdom Hearts remains the only one not been released. It has been, sort of announced. They basically say we're too busy working on both Final Fantasy Type 0, 13.2, as well as Versus 13 to continue development on Kingdom Hearts 3. But let's hope to see that this game will maybe 2014 see a release of Kingdom Hearts 3, but and maybe at some point see some more stuff about it, but that's for the future. At least we have Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance coming out, which I'm very psyched for. And in the meanwhile, I'm catching up on Recoded in 358 days. And for those everybody interested in the series, do give these games a try because they are fantastic. And in terms of storytelling, will have you on your seats. They're both great gameplay and great storylines, and it's definitely one of my favorite series in terms of RPG and especially action RPG. But you know, the Kingdom Hearts series has been with us for 10 years, and while it's not been a glorious ride, like we've said, it's at times it has been disappointing with all the side games, and but both Greg and I have been reinvested into the great series, and with Birth by Sleep was really a lifesaver for the series, and it pulled it out of the slump and even made these side games enjoyable, which is something I'd never expect. And I'm really psyched, for Dream Drop Distance and the inevitable Kingdom Hearts 3, which will hopefully, in my opinion, just wrap up the series. After Kingdom Hearts 3, it should be over with unless they really set it up for a potential 4, but don't go messing with side games anymore. One thing that I do want to mention as well is there have been rumors going on that there might be a Kingdom Hearts HD collection, similar to all the HD collection that you see because of the 10th anniversary. Would be interesting to see it, but as I've recently played through a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, I'll get it for my collection. But it would be nice as an introduction for a lot of people. How do you feel about
One
that, Greg?
One thing I just want to add quickly, there is one consideration, and that is one of the big things they're doing for the PS3 right now, and it's one of the recent updates, is the HD remix of PSP games. And basically, Square did a poll for their fans for what PSP game would they like to see in HD. Surprise, surprise, Birth by Sleep was the top runner. So that's one thing they might be considering is a HD version of Birth by Sleep, which wouldn't be a bad thing. All those people that don't want to play a PSP but have a PS3 can finally experience Birth by Sleep, which is indeed a very good thing. Um, Pretty much Arrow said it. Birth by Sleep got us back into the series. I was already a fan of 1 and 2, and like he said before, I wasn't too thrilled on the other side games, but to really experience the story, it's kind of necessarily to play them all so you get the entire picture. And there's definitely worse series out there, and I got to say, for what was essentially a crossover game, it's turned into one of Square's biggest franchises of all time. Before we end this episode, we're going to talk about, Era and I is going to talk about what we would like to see in Kingdom Hearts 3. And do you mind if I start off first?
No, shit. Please go ahead. Definitely go ahead.
Okay, first up, Disney Worlds. There's been some fantastic Disney Worlds, but there's a few that I'd like to see added. Now, I said before, I'm not a huge fan of Disney. However, there's been a few Disney gems that have been forgotten through, time. That was basically made in the 70s and the 80s. I actually really like the Disney version of Robin Hood, where he's the fox. That's actually one of my favorite Disney movies. I used to watch that constantly as a child. I thought that would be an awesome world for Kingdom Hearts, especially with Little John as the leopard. I reckon it'd be a fantastic world for Kingdom Hearts. Also, there is the Black Cauldron. I thought that would be another great world for Kingdom Hearts. So they're just two right off the bat, and I think it's the Sword and the Stone. I believe is that a Disney movie?
Yes, we have
Yeah,
Merlin from that movie in
yeah,
in the games.
as well. That would be cool to tie him into that having the world, so they can put him in there as well. Uh, just straight off the bat. Now I can't remember. Is there anything to do with Fantasia in the other Kingdom Hearts games? Because you, I could see with the capabilities of the PS3 bringing the a world of Fantasia to life in grand fashion. You know that would be amazing to see. But they're just a couple of my thoughts on the worlds of what I'd like to see in Kingdom Hearts 3. How about you, Arrow? What worlds would you like to see?
Well, it's funny that you mention. In terms of Disney collecting, I for a very long time, uh, the final DVDs that I needed to own were Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, and I finally saw them last year, and they were mind blowing. They are amongst my top favorite Disney movies, and while Fantasia is present in the games through the relationship with Yen Sid and Mickey, sorta like the Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia, there is no real world, and I think it will be very interesting to see if they're able to tie in Fantasia into the Kingdom Hearts 3 storyline. I did remember reading somewhere that Square has some limitations on several movies they are able to do, and judging from Disney, is the era of the 70s, late 70s and early 80s is pretty much the black period, and Disney has been, time and time again, not been has been neglecting that period except for releasing the movie. So, but they are interesting movies, and we're kind of running out of worlds. But if there is anything that I would like to see in Kingdom Hearts that would make it just absolutely fantastic, is Pixar worlds.
Ooh, that's interesting choice. I wonder if there's any if they want to basically would like to connect that to Kingdom Hearts, or they want to keep that its separate entity. But it'd be very interesting. Any specific Pixar movie you would like to see with Kingdom
Uh,
Hearts?
yeah, if there are three worlds that or the three movies that I want to see, it would be Toy Story, of course, Finding Nemo, to basically the Aquatica worlds of the Little Mermaid were not the favorites, but Finding Nemo might be a great one to re-experience underwater worlds. And the final one would be one of my favorites, and that is the Monsters Inc. world.
Oh, okay, cool. There's actually another world that I have not mentioned. I can't believe I haven't mentioned yet, and that would be the Disney's Jungle Book. I reckon that would be a fantastic world for Kingdom Hearts.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you'd be able to verse Shere Khan at the end, probably in the form of possessed by a Heartless or something. That would be very cool. I must say, that would a battle I would definitely play.
Oh yeah. There's so many opportunities left, and they haven't even touched upon some really spectacular movies. For sure.
Okay, now the big one that we've kind of wanted to set this up for before the podcast is what Final Fantasy characters would you like to see in Kingdom Hearts 3? I'll let Arrow take this first.
Whew, Final Fantasy characters that I want to see in Kingdom Hearts 3. I think it won't come to anybody as a surprise, and of course, with the recent Final Fantasy 13, I want to see Lightning as added as a character. She's already present in the Zydia Duoducim, and I think that would be a easy pick. If there's new characters to be added, it would be her. But if there's a specific character that I want to see, it would be from the first six Final Fantasies, and most notably Final Fantasy IV. I believe there are no characters from that area of time in the Kingdom Hearts series, and it would be really interesting to see Cecil, or perhaps characters from Final Fantasy VI added into the mix, uh, because it is a huge part of Square. it is how they are still existing this day. So I would say, throw in some Final Fantasy 1 through 6 characters in the mix.
Okay, I'm going to be a bit more specific with my characters now. I don't know if they want to start using villains again, because the only real true villain they've used from the Final Fantasy series is Sephiroth. Um, in terms of, there's not really many characters from 1 to 3. I would think it'd be very cool to have Cecil and Kane in there if yeah, you have to consider that they would be toned down for the Disney atmosphere, even though there is some dark themes in Kingdom Hearts. But I'd like to see those characters. In terms of 6, I would like to see a character that's never before been brought to life in this generation from FF6. Like, there's already been Terra and Kefka in Dissidia, and there's been Setsa in Kingdom Hearts 2. So that's already 3 of the characters. So I'd like another character from Final Fantasy VI. Like, either I would like to say Sabin or Edgar or Locke. Uh, Edgar might be a bit tough because of his ways. He'd be very toned down in Kingdom Hearts, but just a thought. But I could. There's actually one character I can definitely say would fit very, very well in Kingdom Hearts universe, and that is Zidane. I reckon he would
Yes.
definitely fit in well, and so would most of the cast of FF9, like Steiner and Garnet and Freya and Eiko, because a lot of people compare FF9 to Disney movies, and I think they'd fit in very well in the Kingdom Hearts universe. I know Vivi did, even though they just made him another kid on the block. It was very cool to see him in Kingdom Hearts 2. So that's pretty much from me in Final Fantasy characters. Because the one thing I was kind of left down about Birth by Sleep was only Zack, but that was kind of to tie in with Crisis Core. So that's completely understandable. But yeah, personally, I'd like to see more FF9 characters because I just think they fit into the Kingdom Hearts universe just a bit more than the other Final Fantasy characters. So that's pretty much that for me. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is new gameplay mechanics you would like to see in Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, with Kingdom Hearts 2, I thought they had it perfect. They kind of pushed games for a more cinematic action quality. I'd personally like to see what they could do on the PS3 hardware in terms of, cutscenes and specific actions. It'd be very, very cool. I'd like them to dive more into the drive system. Definitely. Create yet another bizarre system, or they can go back to the simple leveling up system, because the thing about Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 was very simplistic in the way you gain experience and then you went up levels, but the side games have very bizarre systems indeed. So I'm wondering, should they just keep those bizarre enhancing system for the side games, or should they include one in Kingdom Hearts 3, or should they just go back to the simple leveling up system? you know um that's probably one part of the game I'm not fussed upon. In terms of RPGs, I'm still a big fan of just gaining experience points and leveling up. So, but other than that, there's really nothing much to add. So, Arrow, how about you?
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. In terms of the gameplay and leveling up mechanics, I feel that going the simple route is probably the best. Perhaps, like we've seen with Birth by Sleep, some customization on the type of skills and limit breaks that you want to do, but keep it simple. That's pretty much always Kingdom Hearts. Keep it simple, but later on with some difficult fights. That's what I want to see. But in terms of gameplay changes, something that I desperately want to see is not to see gummy ships anymore. I just I'm just done with them. And the reason why I think this is very feasible is because in Birth by Sleep, the main characters they have this sort of special ship that they ride on themselves, and I think that can tie into the mark of mastery. If they succeed that, they have those ships and they are easily going can go from world to world. Uh, it is just an unnecessary addition, in my opinion. or they just have to revamp it and make it really good. But from what I've played in the first two games, it was not very enjoyable. But another thing that I would really like to see, and this is just totally new, is Final Fantasy Worlds. Uh,
Oh fuck
basically,
yeah.
yeah, that would be, in my opinion, very, very awesome. Just an entire world just based on Spira or Midgar, or the Balam Garden, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be really great to see, and to kind of throw it into a hype for Kingdom Hearts 3, because it has HD graphics. I think they're capable of pulling off such a graphical style for realistic worlds, and I think it would be a very interesting thing to do. And if they were just to go insane, I would say make a side world, not a compulsory world, but make a side world where you play top down in those 8-bit or 16-bit style graphics. But
That would be awesome.
that would be, to see the characters of Kingdom Hearts, in 16-bit, kind of with action RPG style. But that's not really Final Fantasy. So, but something like that, maybe a mini game or something like that. We've seen it happen, with a lot of games, like a half-minute hero going into that old school style. That would be an interesting bonus for Kingdom Hearts 3.
That's a pretty good idea, I gotta admit. The Final Fantasy worlds, definitely. Very quickly, I just want to get a list. Final Fantasy One. Haven't got one for Final Fantasy One. Final Fantasy Two. I'd like it to be the Empire where the world takes place in, which I reckon would be very cool. The war torn Empire. Three. I'd probably want it at the Crystal Tower. Four. I would like it on the moon because that's not really something they've explored with Kingdom Hearts. I reckon that'd be very cool. Uh, Five, probably the end zone. Six, interesting.
Hmm.
Probably Kefka's Tower, if that might be too brooding. FF7, definitely the Northern Crater. Or if you want to add sort of like, if okay, as much as I hate Disney Town, if you want like a really gaggy, campy theme park world, go for the Golden Saucer. I reckon
Yeah.
that'd be fantastic, and see Sora and Riku ride chocobos. That'd be really cool. But FF8, everyone throughout the years said that Balam Garden should be an area, which I think is a very good idea. Nine, not really sure on nine. There's a few places I could ask for, and with 10, Zanakin. I reckon that'd be a great place. So there's just some ideas for Disney Worlds, but that would be a cool feature to really get the Final Fantasy fans kind of back. Because with 358 over 2 days and only having Zack and Birth by Sleep, they've kind of they were cut from the Final Fantasy base. And to get those gamers back, I think they just need to inject a little bit more Final Fantasy into Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah, definitely. It would be great. And I'm, we've recently seen, Dissidia. They're tying in some stuff together. But how awesome would it be if they didn't left it at Final Fantasy alone, but even make just a quick cameo of characters from the Chrono series or Ayabria from Parasite Eve? I think that would be spectacular. Now to see it.
They're tall orders. I just got to interrupt. I reckon they're tall orders, just personally, but it would be very cool to see them. But yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is something completely out there, but it might be interesting to make Kingdom Hearts a little bit more of a Square history as well, and kind of get new gamers interested in those games as well. But that's pretty reaching out there. I know.
If they're gonna go that route, the perfect characters for a Kingdom Hearts game is Secret of Mana characters. Yeah. I personally think that'd be the way to go if they go down that route.
That's very nice. In terms of the storytelling, has always been, Disney worlds are being retold in the form of a Disney movie, but there could, take a game of the Mana series, or a game in the Final Fantasy series and retell that specific story, condensed. And I think it would be a nice addition indeed to get a lot of these Square and Final Fantasy fanatics back. But yeah, it's definitely a great idea. In terms of other gameplay, you know, one thing that I just really want is just to finally wrap up the entire storyline once and for all. Great gameplay, new worlds to explore, epic cameos, and just top notch production with voice acting, graphics, and music.
Okay, my last thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3 is the story has to reach the climax and the final battle to be just even more mind-blowing than Kingdom Hearts 2. Uh I want those unfinished events from what happens at the end of Birth by Sleep to tie into either Dream Drop Distance or Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes.
And I'd like to see a lot of Birth by Sleep in either of those two games. That would make it very, very awesome indeed. That's what I'm looking forward to. Now, in terms of recurring Disney worlds, very quickly, I would like them to keep to up to date with the iterations of what happened through the years. Just an example is Pirates of the Caribbean has entered its fourth movie where they go and search for the Fountain of Youth. Why not make that the world for Pirates of the Caribbean and Kingdom Hearts 3? I reckon that'd be a good idea. Just throwing that out there, just little attention to detail like that. And I've no doubt that's probably what they'll go for. But that's pretty much it for me on Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, me too. We think we wrapped up the history, all the different side games, the games in general, all the stuff about them, our future, and even our thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 3. You got anything more to add to this fourth episode?
No, that's pretty much it. I know a lot more people would probably understand because, unlike usually our other episodes where we talk about more niche RPGs, I think a lot more people would understand where we're coming from with Kingdom Hearts because it's just one of those gargantuan hits, that at one point was more popular than Final Fantasy itself, which I never thought could be possible. But it just has. It just connected with a generation of gamers, especially in their teens and younger gamers, and they've grown up and they still play them. You know, I didn't think I'd ever play it again until Birth by Sleep came out and hooked me back in. So I'm definitely in it for the long haul now, and I can't wait to finish things off with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh yeah, yeah. That completely sums up my thoughts on it as well. And if there are any newcomers out there, check them out. I really once again hope that they will be releasing an HD collection with one, two, Rechain of Memories and Birth by Sleep for everybody to enjoy at least the most important iterations in the games. I think you can 358 Days and Recoded are really for the hardcore, but those four iterations and especially 1, 2, and Birth by Sleep must be played by everybody who's a fan of action RPGs and Square and such. So let's see if that gets released, and otherwise just hunt them down on a PSP and a PlayStation 2. So yeah, let's wrap it up. I hope everybody enjoyed this Kingdom Hearts episode. Honestly, this was done uh, at a last minute edition because we wanted to do a Xenoblade Chronicles episode, but we haven't been able to delve really that far into the game. I'm still only 8 to 10 hours in. Been getting sidetracked, by other games like Birth by Sleep. And I think, Greg, it's the same for you, right?
Yeah, we have to apologize to anyone out there that was looking forward to the Xenoblade episode. Uh, I've had to be busy with some big changes that's happening in my life, and very excited for it. In games, is something I'm not really doing nowadays, because I'm too busy focusing on the events, I should say, and I'll get into that before it pretty much comes to a halt with what's happening. But I just want to warn everyone that there will be a hiatus sometime in October because of what's happening with my life, and I'm sort of working up to it. But I haven't had time to play games, and as much as I've been waiting for Xenoblade, I've only played 5 hours of it. But let me tell you this now, I absolutely love the game, and I've actually rearranged tomorrow to sit down and play it for an entire day. Now, I know our good friend Taylor was waiting for to do this episode, so I got to thank him for understanding where we were coming from. He understood that we need to play the game a bit more so we can talk about it. But I'm really excited for tomorrow where I finally get to dive back into it because I really love it.
Yeah, and I have to do the same, just delve back into it. But there's some other games. In terms of upcoming episodes, TGS just happened as you're listening to this. We will have an optional dungeon talking about all the great events at TGS, as well as our weekly challenges that we announced a while ago, and see how that goes. But I hope everybody, in terms of the hiatus, we still have to work out, how long and stuff. We'll have to see, but at least we have lots of wonderful content already up. And in case you have missed one of the episodes, please check back and do that. And otherwise, check out the videos on our channels. And in the meanwhile, we'll be continuing to play Xenoblade Chronicles as well as getting hyped up for all the TGS announcements. And we'll definitely talk about that later on. So once again, a big thanks to everybody who's been listening to the wonderful Kingdom Hearts episodes. Please check out the games. I want to thank Greg for being co-host once again. It's always great to have you on here, and,
Uh,
and
It's always my pleasure. It's really great when we can have these episodes where we're both proficient in our knowledge and our experience of a certain series. And it was pretty much that for Lost Odyssey for the Mistwalker episode, and so it is again for Kingdom Hearts. Um, what's really cool also about RP Gibberish is the differences. How I've been more experienced with the Sega RPGs throughout my life, and other niche series, whereas Aero, the Squaresoft specialist, has had a lot of love and passion for the Squaresoft games, so that comes out a lot when we're talking about Final Fantasy, and as you've heard, this episode in Kingdom Hearts. So I'm really looking forward to doing some of the more Squaresoft episodes together. And we've actually got a couple episodes planned from Squaresoft games in the future. Some very interesting episodes indeed.
oh yeah, definitely. I can't wait for those, but you know it will happen after the hiatus probably. But yeah, it's been a great episode. I want to thank everybody once again for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.